I'll go ahead and get started. This is really exciting. I do want to say welcome and peace to everyone. I'm Allison Green Myers. My pronouns are she, her. I am the program director here at the Highlights Foundation, and I'm joining you tonight from Northeastern Pennsylvania on the traditional and contemporary lands of the Lenape people. Welcome to a very special HF Gather. I'm saying very special because it brings together some of our very favorite people in the same Zoom space. Of course, all of you watching, and right here with me, part of the team that really care for all of our programs, care for all of our people, and care for all of our partnerships here at the Highlights Foundation. Quick note to our viewers calling in from all over. This is a webinar style gather. So we can't see your video, we can't hear your audio, but we can see anything that you put in the chat, anything you put in the Q&A feature. We want to make sure that if you would like to, you can have closed captioning running along with this session. This feature you can turn on and off by clicking the closed caption or live transcription button on your Zoom toolbar at the bottom of the screen. And when we post this recording, we'll post it with the closed captions for you as well. So I know I said, please feel free to put hellos in the chat, but I really also hope that tonight you'll go ahead and put your highlights from the year in the chat, whether they're highlights from your writing life or highlights from maybe attending a workshop, highlights from your life. We'd love to see them in the chat. We'd love to feel that from you tonight because we're going to be sharing some highlights as well. If you want to add any questions to our team, you can put them right in the Q&A feature, and we'll get to just as many as we possibly can after everyone on our team has an opportunity to share tonight. I would remind you that in these spaces, in the chat, on Zoom here, really anywhere we come together as the Highlights Foundation, we ask for your respectful engagement. At the Highlights Foundation, we strive for a safe and inclusive environment. And we ask you to join us tonight with no hate, no harm, and no harassment of any kind. Let us be mindful in what we say to one another, because of course, how we treat each other as adults is reflected in all the work we do for children. We're going to come together in tonight's conversation to highlight this year ahead and to look back at the year we've just gone through. You probably know our mission at the Highlights Foundation is to positively impact children by amplifying the voices of storytellers who inform, educate, and inspire children to become their best self. And here with us tonight are a few members of the team who live this mission each and every day of the year. Of course, missing just on the screen right now are our students, though I see many of you writers and illustrators attending tonight. We're also missing our faculty, but I see some of our faculty here as well. We're missing some of our wonderful, caring hospitality team. I can't wait to be back together with them soon as it's safe. On the screen right now, we do not have Kent Brown, our founder of the Highlights Foundation, but we can always feel him with us, whether he's here on the screen or in Texas doing a building project and living his best life. I wish the screen was really large enough to host all of our program committees that came together in 2021 and our board members here at the Highlights Foundation, our equity and inclusion team too, and of course our scholarship committee. Luckily, our table at the Highlights Foundation is huge and it keeps expanding. Each person helping us feed our mission to impact children positively. And I really hope if you're here with us tonight and if you've joined us this year, that you see this mission in all that we do in our programs, in our partnerships, on social media, and more. I feel lucky to see another view of this mission as it's carried out with the Highlights Foundation team represented here on the screen. Tonight, Our members will have an opportunity to introduce themselves and share a few highlights from another big year here at the Highlights Foundation. I think a great person to start with tonight would be our executive director. So George, I'll turn things over to you.
Hi, thank you, Allison. So my name is George Brown. I'm the executive director of the Highlights Foundation. I use the pronouns he, him. I am coming from downtown Honesdale, Pennsylvania at the Highlights editorial offices, not far from our retreat center on the traditional lands of the Lenape peoples. I did also want to give a little shout out to Kent Brown, our founder, who was rumored to be showing up here. So thank you, Kent, for building this. Without your vision, we wouldn't have this wonderful gathering for the Highlights Foundation this evening. And a little shout out to our board of trustees who works hard behind the scenes to support the Highlights Foundation. I see our board is here. Hello, Dwight and Willa and Ruben and Dee and Chris. Thank you so much for joining this evening, and especially our team. Like, we have an awesome team, and this is part of the fun of the Highlights Foundation and what we do. Glad to be here and be a part of this, and so happy to have all of you joining us here this evening. When Allison first suggested this idea, I thought, this is not a craft-related session for storytelling. Is that okay? But this is a chance to just kick back a little bit and be more relaxed and get to know the Highlights Foundation team. Allison also asked for highlights of our year, and because the Highlights Foundation is my passion project and it is my day job, I made 7 different lists of all the things I'd love to tell you were my highlights of the year. And then I realized I can only do one thing. So I'd like to show you, talk about our solar project, which was a big deal this year for us at the Highlights Foundation. So first, a short video.
Gosh, I haven't even counted the number of days I worked on this project, but say 7 days, maybe 6 or 7 days. And it's been a wonderful project. I'm just totally turned on by the fact that the Highlights Foundation is going to have, self-power, and just a great initiative on their part. And I'm totally proud of them and privileged to work in here.
Last panel, bring it on. And the sun just came out. So that's just a little piece, but that was Jim. And he came out there and volunteered with us for a number of days to put together this solar project. And when I think about this whole project we did, that is not only going to move us forward towards sustainable energy, towards making our campus more green and helping to think about what we're doing for our future, I think about the community that created this project. We had volunteers from our local sustainable energy group come out every day and work to build those panels, to put that piece up. We had funding from the Highlights Corporation, who is kind of our partner in many projects and shares the mission with us. We had funding from my family. My aunts and uncles and cousins all pitched in because they wanted to see the campus at Boyd's Mills move towards sustainable energy. We had funding from you, from our donors, in participating in this project. And all of it was possible through a grant from the Pennsylvania Energy Development Authority. So to me, there were lots of times hands-on in this solar project, actually running the equipment and working side by side. My cousin Eric set out this vision 3 years ago that our campus would be net positive by 2022. And I had no idea how we would ever do that. And here we are on the cusp of 2022 and very close to that vision. My cousin Gary, who happens to also be Allison's husband, was with us every day, volunteering his time and genius behind the management, the project management of that. So it was all this piece of community that came together for the Highlights Foundation to build a stronger future for us. And as I think about that, I could have used our Amplify Black Stories program, which is our partnership with the Brown Bookshelf. We could have used the Muslim Storytellers Fellowship, which is a partnership with the Doris Duke Foundation. Could have used almost any program as an example of how this community is a community that works together. And that's the part that I love so much. So thank you all for being here, being with us. It is my great pleasure to hand it over to Christine Ahern, our operations manager, and Emily Rosenthal, our in the new role of program assistant, but not new to us. Welcome, Christine and Emily.
Thanks so much, George. Thanks to everyone for being here tonight. It's so great to be here. I'm Christina Ahern. I'm the operations manager at the Highlights Foundation. My pronouns are she and her, and I'm joining you also from Northeastern Pennsylvania on the traditional and contemporary lands of the Lenape people. I started, oh, sorry, go ahead, Emily.
Hi, I'm Emily Rosenthal. I'm the program assistant at the Highlights Foundation. My pronouns are also she, her, and I'm joining you from Baltimore, Maryland on the traditional and contemporary lands of the Susquehannock people.
Emily and I decided to do this together because she's taking on a lot of the things that I've been doing, and we just thought it'd be fun. So a little background, I started with the Highlights Foundation in March of 2020, just as the pandemic was really getting bad. And so I've never had the experience of being around for what some people would consider a typical year with the foundation. So I thought I would take a moment to look at the big picture, like what the program is looked like, what many of you who know way more than I do, consider the typical year and what has happened in the last couple of years. And then I'm going to hand it over to Emily so she can tell us what we've learned from it all. So Alex, if you could show us that first slide, that would be great.
There you go.
Thank you. So this is a look at the last 4 years of foundation workshops. And as many of you know, the bulk of what we did for a long time was workshops on campus and personal retreats, such as the unworkshops, or what we now call personal retreats. So in 2018 and 2019, we were plugging along, doing really well, getting close to 1,000 people or so on campus between our programs, custom retreats, personal retreats, and other special events. And then of course the pandemic hit and we had to pivot very quickly. And one of the things I think Allison and George especially noticed right away in those early days is that people really were reaching out, needing community. So we pivoted as much as we could. We put programs online. You'll see in the gray there, we did 1,148 people came and attended our online workshops. But the amazing thing that year was the community building that happened with these HF Gathers, the free webinars that we held throughout the year. And we had 10,000 people register for those, and over 6,000 actually came month by month by month and attended those really wonderful community building webinars at a time when we all were reaching out looking for connection. And that just speaks so much to this community and to all of you. And then in 2021, more of the same, workshops online increased. We had a slow trickle back to campus as the situation permitted, and we continued with the monthly webinars. Though as people got busy, I think there wasn't not quite as much of a need, demand for that constant, but a steady attendance at our webinars. So that's how that's what the workshops look like. I just want to say before I pass on to Emily, there's nothing can replace the in-person workshops. But I think what we've learned is that these online workshops have a unique role to play in amplifying the voices of storytellers. And I'll pass it over to Emily for her take on what we've learned.
Alex, could you go to the next slide, please? Thank you. Hi, everyone. So in contrast to Christine, who came in during the pandemic, I actually knew highlights before the pandemic. I was an intern in the summer of 2019, and I got to go up to campus. And so I saw how in-person workshops worked. And now I've been with them doing a much different capacity with everything being online. So one of the first things we sort of take away with the online is just how much more accessible they are. You can take a course from home, and traveling all the way up to campus can be really hard for a variety of reasons. And so we've been able to reach out to a lot more people who just wouldn't have been able to take a course with us otherwise. Part of that is it's more affordable. It costs us less to provide, so they're more affordable than on-campus programs, which again really allows us to make them more open. They're just more accessible to everybody else. And similarly, because of that, there's also a more diverse participants. We have participants from over 25 countries, and you can kind of get a little sampling of that in the chat when people were saying where they're from, far and wide. And because of that, that lower cost, not having to travel, all that kind of stuff is really useful in just making everyone have a different experience. You're getting to see, hear, and be around other new voices that you otherwise would not have met. And the flexibility that they provide is really imperative also to, again, making it accessible to new groups. You can sort of build your own schedule, and it's not necessary to always attend live because we record sessions, for instance, recordings. And that means the community building functions differently as well because it's online. We have small groups, peer groups, and you're getting to meet with people from around the world. Again, people you might otherwise not have met if it was an on-campus workshop. And you're also getting to speak with them for longer periods of time. You know, even if it's a 2-week workshop, we keep our virtual classrooms open then for another 30 days. So people keep exchanging information and talking, and it allows us to just help broaden that communication between people. And finally, that leads to a lot of great connections being made, including critique groups, Facebook groups, reunions between people. I myself, my critique group met as part of the Writing the Rainbow workshop over the summer, from last summer. I was online monitor, and we all had a wonderful time together and learned so much, and we stayed in touch and formed a critique group. And I know I'm not the only person who's had that kind of experience. And it's really, as Christine said, a testament to the community that people are making these connections, staying in touch, and learning so much from each other. And with that, tell us, I think, also about community, I'm going to pass it over to Kat.
Thank you, Emily and Christine. I'm happy to be spotlighted now because I didn't see myself. If you don't know me, I'm Kat Gagliano, social media manager and an online program manager for the Highlights Foundation. So I'm going to talk to you about my highlight of the year, and that has definitely been seeing through the social media lens and the lens of being an online program monitor, seeing the communities build through social. So I'm so grateful to be able to take a look behind the scenes of what's going on. So if you want to go to my next slide, Alex, thank you. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about actually seeing social components. So seeing the workshops that are happening online, and then I'm going to talk to you about the in-person. So I just wanted to share this picture of my colleague Molly and I when we were on campus last summer after not seeing each other for a year and a half. So that was very exciting. We'll go to the next slide. So I wanted to talk about these three pictures, and this I just chose these three not for anything super important, but I just wanted to talk about the women in the top left corner. Um, these women actually came to highlights over the summer after not seeing each other for a year and a half, and chose to have a personal retreat together. And I thought that was so special that these women chose our facilities to have their reunion after everything that has been transpiring over the last year and a half, almost 2 years at this point. And so I just getting to speak with them and hearing why they chose highlights was just so special to me. And the same thing goes for the whole novel workshop that's right below. I got to also very lucky, got to be on campus for this workshop. And it was just so nice for people to be back together in community. And I think that's the really special thing about highlights is that everyone really misses that in-person connection and building that community. And like Emily said, I've been lucky in my time with highlights, which started in 2018 and kind of evolved a little bit. And then I always joke and say I kind of never left. And I also met my critique partner. So it's just been really beautiful to see workshops, the very few workshops that we did have take place on campus, and then separately having these retreats and these groups come in and choose our facilities and our campus to host their writing retreat, their reunions. And I just thought that was so incredibly special to be able to see on social and to be able to repost and reshare. And lucky for me, I got to be in person for 2 of these instances, but it was just really magical to see all of the pictures and all the tweets and all the posts from over the year of people just being super happy and grateful to have the chance to be together. Next slide, Alex. And so I want to talk a little bit about the online part. So being the program monitor has allowed me to sit in on these amazing workshops. And while I'm usually blacked out and you can't see me, I'm always taking notes and listening. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about this HF Gather that actually happened. I think it was last week. It was for our Muslim storytellers HF Gather. And it was so unbelievably incredible to be in this gather with this community where they got to talk and learn about publishing and speak with agent Joe Volpe and editor Zareen Jaffrey, in like a beautiful space and learning. And Zareen Jaffrey actually said this quote that resonated with everyone in the room and kind of blew everyone's minds away. And it says, "Writing is self-care and publishing your book is community care." And that quote resonated with everyone in that room. And it just kind of blew up all over social with that tweet getting retweeted and reposted and requoted. And it was just beautiful to see how this conversational, part of the HF Gather kind of made this beautiful quote, and it really resonated with everyone. And then also I wanted to talk a little bit about people that have been talking about the experiences they've had with our faculty. This one right here, this person wrote about Chris Tebbett's and Erin Dion's class. It's not an understatement to say that a Highlights Foundation writing workshop with Chris Tebbett's changed my life in the best of ways. The price is a steal. The weekend is January 8th and 9th, perfect for your New Year's resolution to start querying. So I just can't thank you enough as a person who runs the social accounts, that people are taking the time to post about these moments and just speaking up about how important these online workshops have been to their careers, to their self-esteems, to building community, to learning new things, to creating peer groups and critique partners outside of our classes. If you want to go to the next slide. So basically, I just wanted to thank everyone for allowing us to be a part of your lives the last 2 years. And I know that in-person highlights magic is really special, but we've been working really hard to translate a portion of that online. And we're really hoping that you're able to capture that magic, and that the online becomes as special as the in-person. And just thank you for being happy with us. And thank you for booking time and space with us. And lastly, I just want to say that I cannot wait to see all your books in our highlights library. That's it. I'm going to send it over to Molly now.
Thank you, Kat. All right, I think George is searching for me. All right, here I am. And hi, everyone. My name is Molly Chow. My pronoun is she, her. I'm an graphic designer and online program monitor at the Highlights Foundation, and I'm calling from South Maryland on the traditional and unceded lands of Piscataway. I was an intern from 2019, and I stay till now, so happy to be included in the Highlights family. And I have something to share with you on the slide, since I'm also an illustrator, so you can see we have new campus map this year. And if you visit on campus this past half year, you can also see the beautiful map with animal running and hidden picture including. So someday we may put it on the website, hopefully. And I also create some guide and reminder to help support the campus life, like how to use our AC control and when should we get the food, and have the lovely kitchen staff serve us, and some illustration to promote our personal retreat too. So I'm looking forward for the next year to see some more people join us at the campus. And let's go to the next slide. And as a monitor and designer, we also have a lot of workshops to taking care of, and life is busy, but I'm so happy that we have the online platform set up during the pandemic, and people can join us from all over the country and even all over the world. So here are some promo graphics I made for the highlights this year, and this is just part of it, and you can imagine how many I make for them during this past year. And on my page 3, can you go to the next slide? And here I am. This is the design we conduct this summer, both t-shirt and sweatshirt with share your story, inspire a child on it. So hope this shirt can bring you forward with your heart, your story, and your love. So I have good news to share too. Well, I know that we have some people who can make it to the Highlights campus during the past 2 years, and we have an online store open this month. So thank you for the team's effort. And if you go to our Highlights Foundation website, look into About, you will see an option of online community store, and I may drop a link in the chat later. And we were going to work on adding more items in the future, so hopefully you can all grow with us and support our Highlights Foundation. And it's my great pleasure to welcome next Christina.
Hi, everyone. I'm Christina Usal-Joglu. I'm the marketing director for the Highlights Foundation. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm coming to you from Rockford, Michigan, which are on the traditional and contemporary lands of the Peoria and Odawa nations. And I think there's been a common theme really in a lot of our presentations that you have. We talked a lot about the mission. We talked a lot about community. We talked a lot about the impact the pandemic has had on the Highlights Foundation. And my presentation is also going to have some of those themes, but I really want to talk to you about how we're marketing with a mission in 2021 and how that's been a big highlight for me. Alex, if you can advance to the next slide. So Allison already spoke about our mission, and she talked about it in the beginning of the presentation. And I have it up on the screen here, and I wanted to tell you a little bit of story about it. Back in 2019, when I was still a consultant for the Highlights Foundation, I came in for a mission session. And we came together to really talk about our mission. And the output of that session was a new crystallized mission statement. And I mean, the Highlights Foundation has always been a nonprofit. It's always been about children. It's always been about making great literature for children. But back then it was phrased a little bit differently. It was something to the effect of the Highlights Foundation mission was to improve the quality of children's literature. And this new crystallized statement that came out of that session in 2019 is really awesome. And I'll repeat it again. It's the Highlights Foundation positively impacts children by amplifying the voices of storytellers who inform, educate, and inspire children to become their best selves. So that was in December of 2019 when we did that. And then 2020 happened. And I was so happy to have that crystallized mission statement throughout 2020, not only for myself, but for the entire team as we went through the turmoil that was 2020. And then we come into 2021, which also had its fair share of turmoil, but it has really been a building year for the Highlights Foundation. And it's been fun to watch that come to fruition, especially within the marketing department. So I'm going to share some highlights of how we've really been marketing with the mission in 2021. If you go to the next slide, Alex. If you notice, plenty of you have probably taken our workshops, and you probably noticed as you looked in the description that we've added a section for every workshop description, whether it's a one-night mini to a full-length workshop. We're talking in the description about what the impact is on kids. And that's a more recent change that we've made, that we've really tried to connect all of the different things that we're talking about in these workshops, all of the work that you are doing as storytellers in the workshops. Really, what's the end goal of that? To have impact on children and teens. So you'll see that in every workshop description, and it's something I'm proud of, and it's been a highlight for us for this year. If you go to the next slide, Alex, we're going to have another picture of a sweatshirt, and you may say, why, Christina? Why are you talking about sweatshirts again when we have so much of these other workshops? But I wanted to tell you a little bit of a story about this one. When Molly had told you about that, she made that awesome design. And when we were talking about what should be that design, we all knew it should have share your story in it. And if you had ever been to the Highlights Foundation campus pre-pandemic, you probably remember share your story on little buttons and on name tags and different things. It was a really colorful design, and it said share your story. And we were talking about getting it on a shirt. And I was like, it needs to tie back to the mission. We have to have a way to tie share your story back to the mission. So I was brainstorming the word impact, didn't quite sound right on a swetshirt. And I was talking to Allison, and I was like, we need another word. She said, how about inspire? And I said, how about inspire? That's the perfect word. So share your story, inspire a child. That went on the shirts. And it's also really been another example of how the mission has been crystallized over the past couple of years together. Like Molly said, you can buy them on campus or in the online store, but really it's a crystallized way of stating our mission that I just love this year. And if you go to the last slide, Alex. So those were two smaller examples. This one is a bigger example. We did a survey of the Highlights Foundation community. You might have participated in the survey. You might have gotten the survey. We asked a lot of the standard questions that you might expect from a marketing survey in terms of your experience of the Highlights Foundation and things like that. But we also asked a key question about, as a storyteller, did you have any anecdotes or any thoughts about your why? Any anecdotes that you have of children or young adults that you've worked with, what they've said about your work, how they've interacted with your work? And we got a staggering amount of responses that were just beautiful. And I read every one myself. And I just heard all of these stories about maybe an author who was writing a story that they wish they had as a child, or illustrators drawing, making art that showed the representation that they wish they had as a kid, or maybe they were grappling with an issue that they were trying to help kids and teens grapple through. And it was just amazing to read those stories. And I want to share one of them with you tonight. And you can see all of these on social media. We've been sharing them over the past month or so on social media and on the email list. So take a look at them there if you haven't. But I wanted to share one of them with you tonight. One of the best surprises of having books is receiving letters and emails from readers. The very first reader mail I received is framed on my wall to remind me that no matter what reviewers say, I write for these young readers. And that just struck me so much, and it made me so happy to be a part of this organization. And I'm so honored to be doing all this work with you. I'm not a storyteller myself, but I'm so happy to be on the staff of the Highlights Foundation and doing this amazing work with you. And thank you for doing it with us. Now I'm going to kick it off to Bobby, who's on the marketing team as well. Take it away, Bobby.
Hi, I'm Bobby Combs. My pronouns are she, her, And I actually think I'm the founder of the marketing department here at the Highlights Foundation. I'm joining you from Olney, Maryland, on the traditional and unceded lands of the Piscataway Conoy Tribal Nation. And for me, the best thing about 2021 and 20 and 19 and 18 and going all the way back for the 10 years I've been here is the people. And I mean, you all the people who took a course or came to the campus. But I also mean the team that I work with, because when I came, it was Kent and Joe, and then me, and then Allison, and it's really grown from there, as you can see tonight. And we don't all live at Boyd's Mills, but we are absurdly connected through email, phone, text, Slack, Asana. Every way we can be connected, we're connected, and we have a lot of fun, even while we're accomplishing a lot of work. A good example of the love that our team shows to each other is that I happened to see 2 different members of our team this week, and both of them made me a chocolate cake. So I hope you all have coworkers who do that for you. I just wanted to take a little time to celebrate each person because they need celebrating. And the first is George Brown, who is honoring Kent Brown's vision at the same time that he is leading us into the future and building solar panels. So thank you, George. Allison and Alex, I am amazed at the programs you put together, but I'm really dazzled by the way you introduced every program. Articulate, graceful, every single time. I'll never be able to do that. Molly, Kat, and Emily, you just kept all those classes running so smoothly. And like Kat said, you probably learned a lot at the same time. Christine, who did not mention that while she is also the operations manager, in her spare time, she does major fundraising. So thank you for keeping us running. Ambassador Rona, who you're going to hear from soon. There's a rumor going around that she actually talks to attendees on the actual telephone. So I don't know if that's true, but I think so. You know, I get to collect the testimonials that people fill out on their evaluations, and I'm not sure I've seen a bad one about our hospitality staff, or at least there are so many good ones for Chef Amanda and Dan and their whole staff. So that's a joy to read those. But a special shout out to the marketing dream team, which now includes Christina, who has upped our marketing game amazingly, and Kat and myself and Molly. And Kat, a special thank you for rescuing me from being the social media person. Oh, and I've saved my favorite person for last. We've worked together for 10 years. I'd like you all to clap your hands if Joe Lloyd has rescued you with her signature above and beyond customer service. Perhaps she has driven out to the retreat center at midnight to let you into your room that you were locked out of. That's me. But so much of Joe's work is behind the scenes. I think everyone knows her name, but many of you have never met her. In fact, my favorite thing to do when I visit is to ask her to come out to the barn to have dinner with me. And while we're sitting there, someone walks by, I say, "Hello, you guys know who this is? This is Joe." And everybody does the classic double take. It says, "Joe, Joe, Joe." It's fun. That's how I entertain myself when I'm there. So Joe, I think, is going to share a little bit about what she does behind the scenes, and she might have a little bit of news to share. So Joe, I'm turning it over to you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Joe Lloyd, and my pronouns are she, her, and my title is Program Coordinator. And I'm calling in from Northeastern PA on the traditional and contemporary lands of the Lenape Nation. Alex, if you have a random slide you want to put up, everyone won't have to stare at me, or maybe a picture of the puppy. Or,
sorry, Joe, no random slides.
All right. Thank you, Bobby, for that wonderful introduction. It means a lot. Yes, I do have big news. I am going to be retiring in 74 days, and it's really bittersweet. And but I won't talk about that now because my tissues are not nearby. I was going to talk about mainly what I do behind the scenes, but when I reread the focus of tonight was something big from 2021, and you might guess that I came up with community. And so I was just elated to see the large Kit-Lit community that embraced us in the last year and longer. I know a lot of other organizations, created online programs and expanded their online programs, just like we did. And but it was just great to see all the Kit-Lit folks on Zoom with us, and that just encouraged us to offer the very best that we could. And so during my 31 plus years with Highlights for Children, the last 20 have been dedicated to working for the Highlights Foundation. I joined the team in 2001, along with Kent Brown, who was the director. And about that time, the foundation had less than a dozen workshops on campus. And there was also the annual week-long workshop at Chautauqua in Western New York. Some of you may have been to Chautauqua. If you have, put a 1 in the chat. And have fond memories being there, of talking with the faculty over every meal, of being at small sessions with the faculty or one-on-one meetings, networking with fellow artists, and perhaps even taking a walk, taking in nature. And the one thing in my job, I do get to hear from every attendee basically at some point during their time with us. And when I first started going to Chautauqua, I would hear time and time again, this was a magical week. And that magical week began in 1985, and it continued right through 2011. And many of you here, I think, have been on campus when we did what we call Founders Workshops in the farmhouse. And they started around 2000 with about 6 workshops a year. But by the time I joined the foundation, there were probably a dozen workshops a year. And everyone met in the farmhouse, and they had their meals in the farmhouse. Can you imagine sitting on that screened-in porch or the dining room and having a chef right there in the kitchen preparing your meal? It was quite the intimate experience. And in 2011, we saw the completion of the barn, and the workshops grew in number, and now we have gathers, we have webinars, we have online courses, and the magical experiences have just kept on growing. As most of my work for the foundation is behind the scenes, I have really enjoyed being a part of supporting and encouraging children's writers and illustrators. I've been part of a team that has responded to all inquiries, as well as assisting with registrations, scholarship applications, payment plans, travel planning and arrangements, shuttles, and just doing my part to help guests receive the very best experience with us if they can. Whether it's making sure you have a dinner plate if you're driving in late, or if you find yourself locked out of your room, I'll help you get in. Return your items after you go home without them. But my very favorite part of the job is still hearing from all of the authors and illustrators who send us notes. They send us notes. I see notes about how long they wish they could experience one of our programs, or how much they enjoyed the program, what they got out of it, what they would like to get out of new programs. And they even send in donations to support our mission. And I know we're so thankful for the entire Kit-Lit community who have supported us in so many ways, enabling us to grow and reaching a lot more than the 100 people we did in 1985. But I knew from the very first year that I worked with the foundation just how amazing authors and illustrators are, and your support and encouragement is it's just awesome every single year. So a big thank you to all of you and for helping us. And it's been another magical year. And I'd just like to say thanks to the entire team here. Couldn't ask for a better group to work with. And thank you. And I'd like to pass this on to Rona.
Hi, everyone. I'm Rona Schwerdan. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm the Customer Experience Coordinator and Ambassador at the Highlights Foundation. I'm joining you today from Aston, Pennsylvania, which is about 45 minutes south of Philadelphia on the traditional and contemporary land of the Lenape people. And for those of you who are familiar with Highlights and have taken Highlights workshops, I'm sure you'll agree that one of the best ways to develop a community of like-minded creative people is to attend a Highlights workshop. When you go to the website and go to the page that talks about all of the workshops, it can be a little overwhelming. There's so many different opportunities and so many different topics that are covered there that you might have a difficult time deciding which one is the best fit for you. But there is an option to speak to someone to kind of bounce some ideas off of and get an idea of what would be a good match for you in the way of a workshop. If you go to the contact page, there's a link to speak to an ambassador. And if you go on the link, there's a form that you'll fill out, and it will ask you a little bit about your creative journey and your contact information. And when you submit that form, that will come to me. And then I'll reach out to you and we'll arrange for a time to chat about the workshops. And I'll get an idea in that conversation about the things that you're interested in, the projects that you're working on, any skills that you're wanting to develop or enhance. And we'll go through all of the workshops to see which one will be the best fit for you. And if there's several out there that are of interest, we'll talk about them and figure out which one might be the best one to start with, and then which one would be the next one to take after that. I'm very familiar with the course content of the workshops. I've taken many of them myself as a student in the past in my time with the Highlights Foundation. And also, if I know of a workshop that might be a good fit for you, but it's not listed out there on the website, maybe it's coming up in the future and it's not posted yet, or maybe it's already happened and it's going to come up again. If I know that it's something that would be a good fit for you, I'll put you on my follow-up list and then reach out to you later to make sure that when the registration goes up, you're able to jump right in and get your spot in the workshop and be a member of that class. If it turns out that you're not really looking for a structured workshop and you're just looking to get away and escape somewhere where you can just have great surroundings, have your own cabin, nature trails, amazing food, maybe it's a personal retreat that will be the best fit for you. And we can certainly talk a little bit about that as well. So the highlight of my past year has been the relationships. And I would say the relationships that I've built through my role as the ambassador and as the customer experience coordinator. I've spoken with a number of people over the past year. If you've spoken to me either as an ambassador or you've been in a workshop with me or you have some sort of relationship with me through Highlights, say a quick hi to me in the chat because I'd like to see that you're out there. And I've developed new friendships with new friends, and I've also been able to reconnect with friends who are planning a return visit or a return workshop. And so if I haven't spoken to you or if I haven't had a relationship with you so far, I'm hoping to be able to develop one with you. And so if your name is not popping up there in the chat to say hi, I'm hoping that you'll reach out at some point over the next year to speak with me. And I'm going to put the link to the ambassador contact form in the chat so that you can have that. And I hope to be able to speak with you soon. And with that, I'm going to turn this over to Alex.
Hello, everyone. Hola. My name is Alex Villasante. I am the program manager at the Highlights Foundation. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm joining you from southeastern Pennsylvania on the traditional and contemporary lands of the Lenape Nation. And in a way, I'm the newbie on the team. I started at the Highlights Foundation in January 2021, but I've really been a part of the Highlights family for years as a student, then a faculty member. And before I started as part of the Highlights Foundation, I was drawn to the foundation in part because of the dedication to responsible representation in children's literature and achieving that through our Essential Conversations events. So since 2018, the Highlights Foundation has put on a series of on-campus and online events called Essential Conversations. And these workshops, retreats, symposia help contribute to the continuing conversation about diversity, equity, inclusion, and representation in children's literature and publishing. In 2021, we held 9 essential conversation workshops or events, and these range from the Jewish Symposium or the Latinx Symposium, where we center in-community gatherings that look at publishing, craft, and business through the lens of identity, with year-long partnerships, as George mentioned before, Amplify Black Stories and the Muslim Storyteller Fellowship that seeks to not only build community, but look for solutions to come from inside those communities, and other programs that are critical in these times of book banning and censorship, like Writing the Rainbow, the anti-racist writing workshop webinars we had with Felicia Rose Chavez, with writing about mental health, and even workshops that are geared towards educators and gatekeepers who help get books into the hands of children who need to see themselves and their communities reflected in those books. And that's really what the Essential Conversations are about. So I'm going to share my screen if I can do 2 things at once. Let's see if I can pull it off. Yay! Because I wanted to share with you just 2 of my, I'm slightly biased, favorite highlights from this year's Essential Conversations, the first being the Latinx Symposium. I am biased because I helped create this program before I started working at Highlights. And the symposium is just such a beautiful way to really connect with your community, have those tricky conversations that really in a safe space and amongst people that are going to understand what those nuanced pieces are about. And you can see from these 2 pictures, the first picture is of us on the first night. The second picture is on the last night. If we look a little funny in the second picture, it's because we decided to have this gathering on Halloween. And of course, we came dressed up, because that's very on brand. And we continue to evolve these Essential Conversations with the needs of community, because in this particular case, we expanded that peer-to-peer time. So, which we heard back from in the evaluations was so popular. There's such a hunger to connect with people and to connect with people who are, in these situations going through similar things, and you can really have that understanding. Some of the evaluations will bring tears to my eyes, but I love having the small group sessions. By the end of symposium, I felt like I had a small crew of cheerleaders, which is exactly how we want them to feel. And also understanding, I learned about the industry, the way publishers gatekeep and maybe failed and often failed to recognize the value of a multitude of voices representing our particular culture. That's really what we want to come out of these Essential Conversations. And another Essential Conversation that I absolutely adored was writing about mental health. It's so amazing that more and more the books for children are representing mental health issues in a sensitive, appropriate, but truthful way. And I think authors are coming to us asking, how do we do this? How do we stay true to the realities that our children are facing, and even more so in these times that are more anxious, but also create a safe space for them to experience these things and to see themselves. So we had an amazing faculty. We had industry professionals there too, and they talked about how to do the practical crafting of these books, but also allow the authors who may have experienced some of those mental health issues, really concentrating on self-care. So it's the care for the reader and the care for the author and the creator as well. So again, some amazing feedback from this conversation, which I was so proud of. And because I'm long-winded and I can't help myself, it's just the way I am. I wanted to bring out two more quotes from people who attended our essential conversations from the Jewish Symposium. I was so very much appreciated the diversity of the faculty and the different viewpoints that they brought to the table. They were welcoming and smart and wonderful in live sessions. And from viewing children's literature through an intersectional lens, exposure to new authors pushed me to think outside my very narrow view and knowledge of kidlit, which is exactly what we want to continue to do in all of our essential conversations going forward. I have really talked enough, so I will pass it over to Allison.
Well, thank you. Thank you all. And thanks, Alex, for kicking that over to me. Before we jump into maybe one or two questions and close out tonight, I'd like to just add my own highlights. It's hard for me to pick one, but I would say it's not an understatement to say this has been quite a year, another quite a year. There were certainly many, many sweet moments, as so many of our team members have talked about, but really they were paired right alongside strenuous moments of growth and big change. Personally, I have to say, I am so grateful for the companionship of this incredible team during a particularly hard year. And as we look ahead to 2022, I'm so grateful that I get to spend my days with all of them and with all of you. Our hope really is going into a new year always to bring along with us all of the visions from the founder, Kent Brown, and add to it new pieces, but really that heart is of community and support. And, you know, we use the term amplify an awful lot, but amplification is right at the heart of what we do. We're here to support the work that you do. We're here to amplify your voice so that your work can reach readers everywhere. We want all readers to hear your stories. In 2022, we have received several questions that have said, you know, as we normalize this pandemic life, will there still be opportunities online at the Highlights Foundation? Oh, yes. We have just around 75 or 80 offerings of online courses for 2022. Everything from one night, what we call minis, so it's an hour to an hour and a half, short and sweet, full of content session, to year-long sessions. Editor Eileen Robinson is doing a year-long session on the emotional impact in picture books, and we'll have just a great value in that. And she'll go from picture books then into novels. But all of our online workshops, we will continue to have at the core that community and that inspiration. And hopefully we'll be together in those in-person workshops. It will rely so heavily on the amazing work of our hospitality team and really the safety standards that they put into place. Our hope is that we can come together for a select number of on-campus courses. Christine and Emily were sharing that graphic that showed 2018 and 2019. We had maybe between 40 and 50 in-person classes. And I would say in 2022, we'll have between 20 and 25 in-person classes, but we'll have plenty of room then for personal retreats and custom retreats. I think in 2022, you can count on us as an organization to continue our commitment to becoming an anti-racist space. And especially, we're going to look for more ways to engage our staff here, our larger team, and the faculty to work to make change in the children's book industry. As Alex noted, we're going to lean into our Essential Conversation series. We love the thought leadership that the faculty provides in those programs and the growth really that it brings within our community. I look forward to a second year in our Muslim Storytellers Fellowship. I look forward to building again with the Brown Bookshelf a new round of Amplify Black Stories. Of course, I look forward to our work with PJ Library, which will expand into more programming in 2022 for Jewish writers and illustrators. We will continue to offer that free programming, those gathers. I loved that graphic that Christine showed that had, well over 6,000 people attending the free gathers in 2020. So it's just so wonderful to be able to come together. And really, I think we want to continue finding ways to reach new voices, to get to know all of you. We'll kick off another robust year of scholarships for established and aspiring writers and illustrators as well. So look for them. I'd be remiss not to mention what our very first program is in 2022, and it's an extra special one. It's something that really fits all of the above and more, because it's a special gathering for a beloved friend. And we hope that you'll consider joining us. We will be in partnership with the Brown Bookshelf, with Wade and Cheryl Hudson at Just Us Books, with the African American Children's Book Project, the Children's Book Council, and more, to celebrate the life and work of Floyd Cooper. If you are on our mailing list or follow us on social media, you may have seen mention of a memorial for Floyd Cooper. It is open to one and all. There will be so much love to share. The memorial takes place on January 7th at 3 p.m. and will run for about an hour. Just as we wrap up, I'll place the link in the chat for more details. I hope that you'll consider spending the afternoon with us to share memories about Floyd and his work. He, of course, was a gifted artist, a change maker, a mentor to so many, especially here at the Highlights Foundation, a family man and a friend. With that, I just know that we'll be here together to celebrate 2022 and whatever it brings to us. I think all of these relationships, everything that we've talked about tonight, they're all built on trust. And we really don't take lightly that you've put your trust in us this year and last year and next year or any year to come. So we really want to thank you for that. Before we wrap up, Alex, are there any questions in the chat?
Amazingly, there are no questions.
We did it. We answered all of the questions.
We did it all. Yes. We can multitask.
Well, that's great. I'll close tonight then with special thanks. Thanks, of course, to our team at the Highlights Foundation who help make everything we do possible. I'll thank all of you, our storytellers who have gathered tonight. Thanks for your support and your engagement throughout all of 2021. If you've been with us before, we invite you back in 2022 to experience our growth. If you haven't had the chance to be with us in an online class or in an in-person offering, we really hope to see you in the new year. Please stay in touch. And more than anything, be safe. Good night. Thanks for being here.
Bye.